Big things are changing for Tesla, and they're changing fast. So let's cover the growing compute power that Tesla and Xai have already and how much they plan to have. How much are they buying? Tesla, Xai, OpenAI are all buying billions of NVIDIA chips. Might they try to make their own? Will Tesla have the advantage for the massive data centers that will require massive energy? And might Tesla end up being number one in terms of most compute power and most powerful AI, especially for all those real-world videos coming from vehicles and bots? Today I've got Brian Wang with us. He is a science and technology blogger. He's got his website, nextbigfuture.com, and also his YouTube channel, Next Big Future. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks for being here, Herbert.
Okay, appreciate you. I've had you on a few times. You are somebody who actually does deep dive research. You've come up with all this data. So today you're going to share your thoughts on the number of chips, compute power, what to expect. And then the fun conversation is what's going to happen with data warehouses and what is Tesla's advantage? So let's talk about the compute power. This is the research you were doing. And I think what you're going to share here is very valuable to everybody. So just to remind everybody remembers this, this was a graph that Tesla posted saying that they believe that, I think they did it right around here, July 23rd is when they released this, that they were like, what, there are 2 exaflops or something like that. And they expect to be 100 exaflops by the October of this year. And then we're now at April. So we don't know, they've not given us update if we're here at 100,000. So maybe you can explain that, where we're at. We'll come back to this. And then this table came out. Somebody posted this. This is from the State of AI Report Compute Index, and it's about the number of H100 GPUs. And it's update of April 2024. And it says here that Meta, Facebook, bought 350,000 H100s. Meanwhile, the next closest is Lambda. They're at 30, like less than 10%. And then we've got Tesla here at 10,000, which is even worse. However, so somebody said total Zuck domination. He's just buying everything up. But Elon Musk said this is not accurate. Tesla would be the second highest and Xai would be third if measured correctly. What was your interpretation of all that?
So there's other information out there that I interpret. So there was another chart on number of H100 sales from 2023, which had Tesla 15,000, Oracle 40,000. So H100s are basically 4 petaflops of AI compute. That's the floating point 16 or floating point 8 level, right? Which is mean the short word, which is faster compute than the 64-bit or whatever. So the short word compute is what AI needs. So 4 petaflops per H100. The count that he had on that 100 exaflop one was showing A100s with the previous chip, which was 12 times worse than the H100. So 30,000 H100s is basically 120 exaflops. So when he says we are second or third with those two things, over 30,000, that's basically saying they have more than 100 exaflops. They have more than 120 exaflops.
Wow.
I believe,
Okay.
So they're already there. And I think they've been there for a month or two, just installing them. So it's a question of turning it on.
Okay, let me just repeat what you said. So they were saying that by October it will be 100 exaflops, but this is measured by A100 GPUs. You need to have 300,000 A100s. But if he's saying that we're already here, it must be over 30,000 H100, which is 4 times. So therefore, they're already at the they're
right. They're already 120 exaflops. If they have more than 30,000, that says both companies, Xai and Tesla, and Tesla's somewhere over that. I believe that. So some other data is that the wait times for H100s has dropped to like 6 weeks, right? So there was a tweet about that NVIDIA's line for H100s has dropped. So that means if Tesla has $3 billion, right, they get 100,000 H100s. So if they wanted it, which I believe they do, and I believe that both Xai and Tesla will want and are installing 100,000 H100s. It's just a question of like, have been delivered, because NVIDIA now has them available, and most it's a 6-week wait to get them, right? So in order to do Grock 3, which we'll discuss later, you need 100,000 H100s. So XAI is getting those. I believe Tesla's getting those, which means that you're up around 400 exaflops. So the compute limited thing, that's what it means, is that
Wow.
you're getting that. And the other thing is that Tesla was listed as one of the primary customers, top 5, top 6, whatever, for the B200, the latest chip that Jensen released, whatever. That is a 20 exaflop chip, and they stick in a package with like 40 or 80 things, right? 40, 80 exaflops. So the main reason you want to go to that, which we'll discuss, is because of lower energy. So
Gotcha.
by the end of this year, let's pull a number. Let's say you get 20,000 or
B100s.
yeah, 20,000 B200s, right?
Wow.
That is equivalent of 800 exaflops, right?
Jesus.
So, right.
So forget the 100 exaflop. That's not a big deal anymore. Okay.
Right, that's not a big deal, right? So that goes to Elon saying AI compute is increasing by 10x every 6 months. That's what he's talking about. So
Gotcha.
that's why that old 100 exaflop thing is out of date.
It's already out of date.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to explain a little bit more about what you expect that Tesla might have and what they're both X and XAI and also even OpenAI, what they've got. But before that, I want to point this out. You also saw this tweet, which is very important to see. This guy named Kyle Corbett said this. I spoke to a Microsoft engineer on the GPT-6 training cluster project, and he's quite fetched about the pain that they're having about provisioning this InfiniBand class links between GPUs in different regions. Like, so they need to provision and these links between these clusters across different regions. So he says, well, I asked them, why not just co-locate the cluster into one region then, right? So why do you have to worry about connecting all these different regions? And the guy said, yeah, we tried that first. We can't put more than 100,000 H100s in a single state, a United States state, without breaking down the power grid. That's how much energy that these guys are taking. So that's why they need to co-locate. They need to have many different regions. That's amazing. This is 100,000 H100s, which you just said, you know, it's already. And then
it's 400 exaflop, yeah.
And so here is Facebook, Meta. They've bought this data warehouse. I don't know if they own this nuclear power plant, but this is the problem. They need to be here. So let's talk about what Tesla's going to do, what their potential advantage is. But any comments on this before we show the data at the tables you got?
Yeah. So it's basically like a nuclear power plant in the United States is about 1 gigawatt hour, right? Which if the H100 is using about 100 megawatts, then it's you're not using all the power of the plant, but then the plant is already powering homes, factories, and other stuff like that. So it's the issue that you have to get all of that power. And normally when you go from a power plant to a home, to like many of the homes, you keep splitting up the power. It goes like 1 gigawatt down to 10, 100 megawatt zones, to smaller and smaller. You step down to normal humans. So you're putting the power plant right next to it saying, I have some splitter, some transformer superstation that's splitting that 1 gigawatt, and I'm taking all of one zone to get 100 megawatts of power. So that's what they're doing. They're sucking up all one zone. And then what's going to have to happen is finding ways to get all the zones. But the issue is it takes 20 years to make a big new nuclear power plant, and in 5 years make a coal plant and whatever like that. There's these time delays around making the grid and doing stuff. So, but you can alleviate some of that by getting right next to the plant and finding one that for some reason was underutilized. So that's some of the issues around that.
Well, that's what Amazon has to do, but Tesla has access to megapacks, solar. They're gonna
One thing I would say though is that China, because they've been adding like 5% of their power every year, and they have more power than Europe and the United States combined. They've been building lots and lots of power plants and grids for the last every year, right? For the last 40 years. That is an advantage for them coming into the age of AI, where they can say, I can just build an actual new dam. I can build all these plants and then wire them all up to give you power. So elsewhere, you'll need Tesla.
Wow. Okay. So let's go back to the research you just did about Tesla. So you said here that Tesla is not compute limited. When they say that, that means that for FSD AI, that means that they must have 100 plus exaflops now. You just said that they're way past that. Thank you for explaining that. And 1 exabyte or more than 1 exabyte of cache. Any comments on this one?
Yeah, so the 1 exabyte of cache, there was a tweet from someone on the Autopilot FSD Dojo team saying that last year, back when we were saying at that small level, like 10 exaflops, 5 exaflops, that they had 200 petabytes of cache for the FSD training. This cache is super fast memory. So not like I'm going to hard drive. It's I'm going to like the SRAM, at worst some DRAM kind of thing. But normally cache is not DRAM. It's not the regular memory on your machine. It's like the faster memory, the more expensive memory. The fact they need so much of it, I'm thinking over an exabyte. If the compute is matching the memory requirements of this, then you need this a lot of this really expensive super fast memory, and you want to make it look all as one thing, which it goes to the splitting up the data centers and saying, okay, if I split them up state to state, I need to connect, like 100 terabits per second between, 2 different locations or something like that, in order to make it kind of look to the computers, the chips, that I'm looking at one big thing, because I want to train a giant model with all this data and have it crunched together. So if I'm training FSD, which is one of the most compute and memory intensive things, where I'm sucking in, 300 gigabytes from one car per month, which is like 300 petabytes from 1 million cars, right? Then in order for me to use all that data at once, I need to have this super fast memory. So it's fast compute, all big, ideally all in one thing, big memory, ideally all in one thing. If I have to split it up and merge it together, I can do it, but it's not, it slows things down. It's not as good. It's like I'm patching it together and then trying to stitch it together. It's not good. So that's why you want one thing all together, as fast with memory as I can, and then it all thinks about it in order to get to the end result. So is that clear? That it's basically, I want it all in one as much as possible. Yeah.
Okay. So because of that, if that's the case, then you need to have one massive data warehouse. You can't. That's what you got that engineer complaining that they have to have in different states. But if you are able to do one big one, and you're able to provide the power, Tesla could do this. That could be a huge advantage for them. That does take away from this theory that I'm going to share with you at the end of this, near the end of this thing, where I had this idea of distributed, what Tesla could do with distributed warehouses. But maybe I'm totally wrong, but I think it's fun. Okay. So this really is a big thing. Thank you for explaining this, because everybody here, we've all been saying, oh, we're now no longer constrained. But we didn't believe or don't understand if Elon was correct when he says we're number 2. And pretty confident. And therefore, you're saying they're already past the 100 exaflops and they're moving forward. So let's talk about XAI. He said that XAI would be number 3 on that list. And so you've put together this table here. This is Grock 2. That's supposed to be even more better than OpenAI's ChatGPT 4. Tell me about what this table says.
So XAI released Grock 1.5, which is kind of close to Grock 4, but not quite as GPT-4, but not quite as good. Grock 2 is in training now. It'll be done in May. And Elon said it's using 20,000 H100s, which we know is about 80 exaflops of compute. And thus, on the amount of wattage per chip, I'm ballparking at 20 megawatts. He says Grock 3, which will be out later this year, will use 100,000 H100, and it's basically a GPT-5 class system. So they're racing, maybe Xai is only a few months behind on that. He also said it uses all regular data that we have in the world, internet, regular videos, whatever, 40 trillion tokens of data. And then after that, we need synthetic data or real world video data. So besides the energy and the compute, it's also this data thing, the data advantage of Tesla collecting the data. ARK Invest also talked about getting all of the audio data of the world, recording what everyone says and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's potentially some more accessible data, but it's not just hook up to the internet and just suck it all out and scrape it. I have to do a bit of work to get it. And that goes to the fact that Elon said, it's $250 billion worth of cars with, 5-10% of that cost being the hardware 4, hardware 3, and that system and cameras for bringing in the data and pulling it out at 10 gigabytes per day, right? So basically, the end point would be, as you go forward in years and making things bigger and bigger and suck up more data and more energy, is that the entire world and all the self-driving cars with their hardware and all the Tesla bots are all, one of the main tasks is feeding the super AI with data, gathering video, collecting it. And it becomes, it's this virtual circle of, I get data, I make my AI better, the AI needs more data, and I make better products, and I'm selling more humanoid bots and cars. That everything that civilization is doing is making more energy and more data and more compute for the super intelligence.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so what I read here is that at some point in the next year or two, you're going to need to, in order to, right now it's commodity, right? These LLMs are commodities, but at some point the 20 megawatt is going to like 10x. You need 10 times that energy, and it's going to cost you like crazy. So we heard that, what's that company that just announced that they are,
the other Grock with the GRQ or
that company that has 100 million, they just said that they might go bankrupt. Stability AI.
Okay,
because they have $100 million worth of spend for the energy. Every time you make a query, I can't remember the exact number, but it's like ridiculous how much money it costs them for every query.
Right.
And then they only make $2 million of revenue, so they're probably going to go out. But and then that's going to 10x in terms of how much energy you need, and then you're going to want to compete. You can't just take the regular text data and that's on the internet. You need to get real world data. You need synthetic data, and whoever can grow faster. This is what you're expecting. Okay, this is all 2025, man. That's crazy. That by next year, this is where we're going to be at. Like he said, 10x, right? Every 6 months.
Right.
Okay. Wow. So this is Grock. This is XAI's Grock. Now let's talk about GPT-4.
Yeah. So because OpenAI wasn't releasing how much compute they had, they started keeping that secret. Although there are reports that them and Microsoft are going to make a $100 billion data center using 1 million chips, probably the B200s, which is, massive amount of teraflops of compute. But basically, Elon's saying that GPT-5 is, at that 100,000 level, and then they're taking these bigger steps. So it's basically the same thing as the other one. They're basically the OpenAI and the Grock.
Yeah,
I'm expecting them to be pretty competitive and pretty close, but they're each using more data. And then the question for them is, where are they going to get their data? If they don't have enough real-world visual data systems collecting now, because in the cars, then they have to depend more on synthetic data until they get their real-world, collection.
Somehow get real world data. That's why you've
Yeah.
got them delayed a little bit. And this explains a little bit of why Sam Altman is saying, I need $7 trillion.
Right.
I need to
Right.
buy all these nuclear power plants. Oh,
Right.
God. Okay. Tell me what this is.
Altimeter, a $10 billion venture capital fund, led by Brad Gerstner, who's sometimes on the All In podcast. His team calculated that we're right now at about 5% of the world energy for U.S. energy in U.S. AI and regular data centers. And they're expecting this to about 4x by 2030. So this goes to the master plan part 3, where saying, okay, we're going to move all transportation to electric for cars and everything. And that was basically this 20% increase in energy was to do electrification of transportation. We get another 20% increase and more, continuing into the 2030s, where it's going even higher, where we're going to need way more energy for the AI. So AI and electrification of cars and trucks means that we have a double hit. And then the AI things becomes bigger than the electrification of transportation. So the old master plan part 3 is too small because it didn't take into account how fast AI would grow and suck up energy. We need more mega packs. And basically also it just means that, because that stopped in 2030, it keeps going, 2040, 2050, whatever. So bad news for the climate change people. If they were saying, oh, all we have to do is convert the coal plants into solar and blah, blah, batteries and stuff like that, never done. It's like, you're going to need 10 times, 100 times more solar and batteries, in 2040 than you thought. And because Sam Altman and other guys in Tesla and stuff are going to be making trillions of dollars off that, if they say, okay, well, we're going to stop them here in the US, well, they're going to go to some other country. So the world is going to go to this massively energy intensive AI situation. And that's basically what that was saying. And also it's this, the speed at which that's happening, 20% more power. That's, 2,000, we're at 4,000 terawatt hours in the United States now. That's 800 terawatt hours. That is an incredible large amount of power. It's like how many megapack factories to get to 800 terawatt hours. It's a huge amount.
Well, it's just 2004 to 2030, to 2024 to 2030. That's 6 years. And basically it's going to 4x in 6 years. It's almost like doubling, a little bit of close to doubling every year and a bit.
Right.
Of the data warehouse that's needed. But so this is great news for Tesla, because Tesla energy is no longer going to just be bigger than auto. It's going to become 10 times bigger than auto.
Right. It becomes if XAI is doing the compute and the large language model, and then Tesla energy is applying the energy to it, that is actually
the bigger customer.
Where the bigger customer, the bigger value. Right.
Except I've been arguing with people that XAI, Grock, XAI, ChatGPT, these LLMs, we don't know yet how much revenue and where they're going to get their money. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, versus
so I have some
real world. Okay, well, right. Versus real world, which is Tesla solving Robotaxi, they're solving bots. That's where you make your money. Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So Altimeter, Brad Gerstner has a analysis of large language model queries versus Google search. Mm-hmm. And he's saying that by his calculation, the total number of internet searches, trillions per day or whatever, 5 to 10% are now going towards
already today. Right.
Wow. Yeah, I'm skipping going to Wikipedia. I'm punching it into ChatGPT, Gemini, Grock, whatever. Yeah. Right. So 5% already gone. So by 2030, he expects about 20-30%. Right. But you could combine, with your own large language model and search thing. This way, Grock gives you its answer plus it gives you some links. Right. That's a kind of merged thing. But that basically he also has the cost. It takes 3 to 30 cents per LLM query, but you only make 2.5 to 3.5 cents from advertising, whatever you're monetizing subscription of it.
Yeah.
And then Google makes 0.3 cents, cost 0.3 cents per internet query, but they make 4 cents.
Yeah.
So the large language models are not yet profitable. But all you have to do is lower the lower bound of your 3 to 30 cents from 3 down to 1 cent. And then if you make 3 cents per query, you're profitable. I'm cost me 1, I make 3. So all they have to do is lower the cost by about 3 to 30 times, and they're there, profitability assured, right? And then they're competing against Google, but the fact that Google is, more margin, 80% instead of 20, it doesn't matter because I'm still profitable. The fact that you're more profitable, the demand is, I want to use the better queries to give me not 10 blue links with a bunch of ads mixed in.
The answer.
I want to use the better Grock 4 and 5. I want to use the better GPT 5 and 6. So the monetization is that they're going to cannibalize Google's search. Google can still cut costs and do stuff and stay in the game. They don't go bankrupt.
They're not going to die or anything.
But they get weakened. 30%. They're no longer dominant on this form. So there's that. And then the other thing is Copilot, which is Microsoft Copilot and then Devin, these boosting programming productivity. That is real. I've talked to...
that's for sure real.
Yeah. And so that is, by Gartner's estimate, if you look at $5 trillion of IT, about 1 trillion is software, 1.5 trillion is software services, which basically consultants doing stuff with software and doing stuff with the project. Mm-hmm. So $2.5 trillion off of that, which if the world of IT shifts over to Copilot and those other products that are helping boost that productivity, AI, large language models, take out, $2.5 trillion of that. So I feel that the value just from those things are enough to justify all the data center build-up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's a business model for the LLMs. I still maintain that Tesla, obviously XAI has the LLM, but it's like the combination of all both worlds, right? You got the LLM on XAI, then you got Tesla with real world business models. Mm-hmm. So that's great. Thank you so much. You've shared a lot of info I had not known, and I'm sure the audience here is just learning for the first time. Let's get back to Tesla. And they released this, there was a job posting for a Tesla engineer to work at and they called it first of its kind data centers. Mm-hmm. So they're hiring staff is now, okay, basically here, now Tesla's getting into the data center business. Okay.
Right.
And they had this job posting for a senior engineer, program manager, data center. The role will lead the end-to-end design and engineering of Tesla's first of its kind data centers and will be one of the key members of the factory engineering team. So a couple points here. One is they're hiring an engineer to help build, and they call it first of its kind. I want to talk to you about that. And then factory engineering team. It might be that they're trying to create the machine that builds the machine.
Right.
So yeah, so so first of its kind data center, and tell me if I'm wrong or not, but my theory would be that it's not just a data center, right? It's going to be a data center, and it's going to have mega packs right beside it. It's going to have a solar panel to feed that energy. So it's a combination of data center plus mega pack, possibly connected to Starlink instead of just the internet, whatever. What's your thoughts on that?
Right. Yeah. So that goes to the fact that you have this insatiable demand for compute, and that's an insatiable demand for data centers. That physically, if I'm putting in 100,000 chips, that's in a monstrous warehouse. If I'm putting in 1 million chips, which is like next year, that Microsoft and also Tesla want to do that, then they need to have like 10 buildings, either 10 buildings in the same state, if I can do them side by side, or 10 buildings other locations, they want to start mass producing those things. Because if I'm right by 2030 that they're going to need 1,000 times more, that means they need 1,000 new buildings all filled with racks and racks of compute. And also they need to have the energy, like you said, beside that. So there's, we said that Alchemist said we're going to go to 800 terawatt hours of energy. That means we need, the comparable amount of AI compute to match that 800, which is basically 20% of the United States. We need to build 20% of the United States of energy, new energy, and 20% of the compute data center. We need to, double up, triple up all the data centers. And that's just by 2030. And then it continues to 10x or more by 2040. So we need to figure out how to factory mass produce all of it. So the faster you can do it, the faster you can install it, then you're advantaged. Because if I buy 1 million chips, right now it takes 6 months to get the 20,000 chips installed into racks and tuned up. If I'm buying 1 million chips, I need to get 50 times faster, right? Did I get that right? Yeah, 50 times faster, right? So that means they need to productionize, mass produce this whole capability.
Yeah. So when they refer to first of its kind data center, it could just be what you're saying is, a robotic factory that automates how quickly you can create these, like you said, set up the data, the chips and the systems, get them online,
and also operate them.
Yeah. And
so I'm installing the all these things, and then I have to maintain them because something burns out. I got to replace it.
Yeah.
Seems like a job for Tesla bot.
Tesla bot, all automated. Yeah. Number one and two, it's very likely going to be connected to energy grid and megafacts. So data center that's integrated already with solar. So here's another, a theory of mine that we talked about at the beginning that I think is completely washed out now. But so you were saying at the beginning, you showed that it's much better to have the cash and the energy. You need to have the bigger the data center all in one place. We talked about how there's already complaints that at some point 1,000 H100s, 100,000 H100s, already you can't have that in one location. You need to have different states because it'll take down the grid. But if you have your own energy and you have your own megapacks, you have your own solar power, but you still believe it's very critical that they're all in one place. But I have this theory. It's a dumb one. Just I'll prep it.
No, it's not dumb.
I'll prep it now. So Tesla Charging released this a few days ago. And they said that, when they create these superchargers, it now just takes them 4 days from delivery to opening a site with prefabricated supercharger units. So these supercharger units are so fast, they can prefabricate them and then they can deliver it now. Now the guy, and this is just installing because it's all been prefabricated that when they install that at a site, they have done all the work. But, somebody said that doesn't matter. The regulation and all that slows us down anyways. That does not really speed up supercharging. Okay. But let me play the video that they attached to it. I'm going to take down the music. I don't want to be demonetized. Pre-assembly. Just take a look. That they have automated ways of building these superchargers. So obviously they're spending as much time and effort they can to to automate and get these superchargers out as fast as possible.
Right.
And then they have they figured out how to install it in a location.
Right.
And they're hooked up to the utility. And then it's ready.
Right.
Okay. And the reason I bring that up is that Drew Baglino then says this. He goes, okay, while I agree it may not make a difference in overall site timelines given permitting and utility, these prefab innovations fundamentally drive down cost per post deployed, okay, because it's automated. We will continue integrating more prefab content, including lighting and canopies and solar, to bring more charging value at lower cost for our customers. So my theory is that this is for superchargers. What if you did this for a data warehouse? So what if you had the size of I don't know, what size is this? Maybe a mini house. Maybe it's just
a shipping container.
shipping
Yeah.
container, and you got it full with data, where chips and all that. But they are able to produce it. They're able to put the canopies enough. I don't know how big it needs to be, but it needs to be to have solar. You got the mega packs. That's what you create, and then you can put this all over the world, and they're all connected to Starlink. And that could be how they do it. Distributed warehouse instead of like one giant thing.
Yeah. So two things to that. Yes, the factory mass production and making modules, shipping containers of a data center can speed up everything, right? So even though I'm putting it all in one location, like 10,000, 100,000 ship containers, 1 million ship containers worth of compute in one location, that is still advantageous to if I can stack, because there's people who can stack up like 5 ship containers. You know, they have the strength to hold that. So then you can just take them in, connect, you know, just
it's
like
the unbox
modular
model for data warehouse.
Unbox
You take a shipping container, connect it together. Shipping container, connect.
Right. Giant Legos to build it all together faster, whatever. The other thing is that there's training and there's inference. So training is I make my model so it's ready to answer questions. And then the inference side is like hardware 4, where it's in the remote location answering the question, right? And for the FSD case, it's driving the car, right? So, and Elon talked about the inference cloud thing, right? But there's a ratio between training model and inference. The bigger I make my inference thing, the smaller I can make my training thing. It's to this some order of magnitude thing. If I make this, you know, 5 times bigger, this one gets, you know, 3 times smaller, something like that. So it's not quite, you know, 1-to-1 kind of thing, but there's a ratio there. Why does that matter? If I start hitting the limit for, you know, getting to 1 gigawatt, 3 gigawatts, building that thing in one location, it gets too big. You know, eventually I get to 10 gigawatts, 100 gigawatts. Then I need to start making my inference thing bigger, which goes to a MacBook needs 100 watts and it runs a 20 teraflop M2 chip or something like that, or 5 teraflop M2 chip. If I stick a equivalent of a B200 using 1200 watts and it give me 20 petaflops, I have a way more powerful inference engine. I could also make some special Dojo chip or something like that, or another Tesla chip on the inference end. So there'll be needs for spreading out this compute for answering questions to for the AI for whatever application I'm doing. You know, if it's like, you know, just like you have on the internet, you have Akamai and you have F5, where you have stored answers and compute. You need to have these compute nodes to make it faster, right? AI needs compute nodes too, right? And also, you talked about Starlink connecting it. Starlink, in the thing they just announced, they have laser connections between those 6,000.
Laser, he was saying how fast they are, faster than light.
Right, in space, right?
Yeah.
So they're moving about 42 petaflops, petabytes a day of data up in the Starlink network. And if you make the Starlink network 100 times bigger, right? And also put in extra network nodes, giant network processing nodes up there, then you're making this parallel to the fiber thing. Fiber is moving about 600 petaflops. So if I go up by 15x on the Starlink network, I'm beating out current fiber, right? So what's the advantage of that? As we showed before, when I get to Grock 5, Grock 7, I need, you know, all these thousands of trillions of tokens, which is data. I need to move that around. When I need to collect more data, so the collection of data, I need a network to shove it around on, which would be Starlink. And then I need to move the data from the AI data centers to the inference areas. There's all this communication happening. And you need to have, it'd be great to have your own network to do that. And Starlink provide that for space, for Tesla. So as I said, it's the world with satellite data connections, cars, $250 billion, trillions of dollars of cars with cameras, Tesla bots with cameras, are all feeding the beast of, I need inference, I need training, and the inference is spread around, and some parts of the training is spread around. So I need to move. So our entire world becomes this giant brain.
Super AI. Yep.
Super AI. So all the energy, all the data, everything goes to feed them, and it'll be making money. Right.
I wonder if Elon's learned a lot from Neuralink, how the brain works, how data is transferred to the brain, and he's like figuring out how to recreate the brain at a universal level.
Right.
Oh, okay. God, this was powerful. Thank you so much, Brian. That was, I learned a lot. And this is questions I was asking, a lot of people are asking. Thank you very much. You got to check out his website at nextbigfuture.com. He's got a YouTube channel too called Next Big Future. And he does deep dives like this. We've done other shows where we didn't even talk about it, but we did a show one time where he explained how every single Tesla has hardware 3 or 4, which has chips, inference chips, and possibly we could make money if Tesla needed to have access to that compute power. They'd pay us.
Right.
In your thing, it could be anywhere from $200 a year to $2,000 a year, depending. Right. So we could actually be making money with our vehicles because it's got a computer chip there. It's right. Anyways, thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Herbert.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.